Rocket debris from China's space station launch is hurtling back to Earth. The problem is scientists aren't sure where it will land. China recently launched the first module for the country's new space station into orbit. After the rocket separated from the core, it should have followed a predetermined flight path into the ocean. Scientists say that didn't happen. For more, let's bring in CBS News space consultant Bill Harwood. He joins me now from the Kennedy Space Center. Bill, welcome. Great to see you. How concerned should we be that this debris might actually fall in a populated area?
You know, it's really interesting. It's kind of like the debates, you can have with people about what are the odds of an asteroid hitting the Earth. And you can go, well, the odds are very low, but the consequences are high, right? So the odds of it hitting, this debris from this rocket hitting any particular spot on the planet are pretty low. But obviously, if it came down in a city, if you had big chunks of metal falling in a city or a populated area, the consequences would be high. Now, the problem is, as you said, it's just too soon to know yet where this rocket is coming down. It has to come down somewhere between 41 degrees north latitude and 41 degrees south latitude. And if you look at a map and look at that, that pretty much includes, everywhere in the United States south of Chicago. It includes all of Mexico, Central America, most of South America, all of Africa. So there's a wide range of places it could come down, but the odds it's going to come down in your town are extremely low.
All right, so Bill, I want to put up for a moment a map from the Aerospace Corporation. It shows possible re-entry locations for this debris.
Right.
So talk to us about, when you look at this map, talk to us about what the yellow and blue lines signify.
Well, really, it's just what I was just talking about, the uncertainty in the track. If you look at that map from the Aerospace Corporation, they show the body, the rocket body, hitting the atmosphere just west of Australia. But the blue and yellow lines are uncertainty before and after that. In other words, it's just too soon to say. That's what those lines mean. Anywhere you see those blue and yellow lines on the map, in theory, debris from this rocket could come down. We just don't know yet where. That's going to tighten up. The models will get much more accurate as this rocket gets lower and lower toward the atmosphere. It'll start slowing more dramatically, and they'll get a much better, more accurate radar track on this thing. And so I would suspect by tomorrow or Friday, we'll have a pretty good idea of what general part of the world it's coming down in. We still won't know exactly where debris might hit.
By tomorrow or Friday. Interesting, because Bill, I think about all the incredible calculations that NASA and the Chinese Space Agency do on a daily basis. And this, of all things, doesn't seem as complicated as most of the things that they do. It's hard to kind of figure out how this, or understand how this could still be unknown to scientists.
Well, there's two aspects of this. One is, why is this rocket making an uncontrolled entry? The Chinese didn't design this rocket to have a way to restart its main engines and target the reentry. Now, virtually all rockets, including the SpaceX rocket you mentioned at the top of this bit, that is designed so that stages will come down over an uninhabited part of the ocean by intention. The Chinese haven't done that with this. It's a real good question as to why they don't, but that's the reality of it. Now, in terms of the atmosphere, people think of low Earth orbit as a vacuum, but it's really not. There are still trace amounts of gas, molecules, and atoms whizzing around up there, and spacecraft run into them. And because they're moving so fast, nearly 5 miles per second, even though those particles are very small, it all adds up. So everything in low Earth orbit eventually will fall back down to Earth, including the International Space Station. They fire rockets on the space station fairly frequently just to keep the thing at the altitude they want. So the fact that this is coming down is not a mystery. Why the Chinese have let it do this, that is a mystery.
Well, Bill, you bring up a good point. I mean, could they get in trouble with the international community? Because essentially they are being reckless here by not ensuring that the debris falls, over the ocean.
Well, it's happening. It's not happening inside anyone's borders. I mean, the United Nations obviously pays attention to these things, but we still don't know yet. You mentioned also that it was supposed to fall in the ocean right after launch, and it didn't. We don't know why that is. They could have had a malfunction in this case. Something didn't work quite right. that can happen to anyone. But it does seem a little bit strange to me that they don't have more control over something that weighs, 20 tons that's going to fall back into the atmosphere. And we should caution our viewers, Tanya, it's not all 20 tons are going to fall down. Most of this rocket's going to burn up in the atmosphere. But some chunks of it are expected to make it down to the surface, and that's the concern.
And one little chunk, Bill, can cause what kind of damage? Like if it does hit, let's say, a city, can it destroy a city block? Can it destroy,
No.
What kind of damage are we talking about?
It's probably instructive to go back and remember the Columbia disaster back in 2003. That was a 200,000-pound spacecraft that broke apart over Texas, and debris fell all the way from west of Dallas down into Louisiana. And it didn't hit anybody or injure anyone. We're talking, pieces of metal that would come down, fuel tanks, things like that, that'll be mostly mangled and seriously damaged by atmospheric heating and the vehicle's breakup. So relatively small pieces, certainly not something that would take out a block or take out a city or anything like that. But obviously, you don't want any pieces of metal falling out of the sky and hitting you on the head, that's for sure.
Absolutely. No hard hat area. All right. Well, Bill Harwood,
Exactly.
Thank you so much. As always, it's a pleasure talking to you about space.
My pleasure.